Hello everyone. The whole world is watching what is happening in Kenya with great shock and pain. Lots of people have lost their lives, and some are still in hospitals around the country with critical injuries. Some houses have been damaged. Ruto says, "I concede," and the finance bill will be withdrawn. Ruto will start dialogue with youth, mull austerity measures. Some protesters are demanding that Ruto should resign. Ruto's arrogance is gone, but the lies are still there. Ruto had the chance and opportunity to stop all this mess by addressing the nation positively. Instead, he abused and shamed Kenyans all around the world. He referred to the youth as the Gen Z criminals. Kibaki was a president for 10 years. He managed free primary education for all poor children. And the economy of Kenya was better than now. Uganda High Commission went up in flames. The building went up in flames on a day that violence engulfed Kenya, with demonstrators breaching and ransacking parliament. This has left open the question of whether the inferno was related to the protests or ongoing refurbishment works. Uganda diplomats and the contractor were last night working overdrive to establish the cause of the fire that gutted the Uganda High Commission in Nairobi. The damage is immense. President Museveni will soon be calling Ruto to find out what the heck happened. President Ruto has withdrawn the bill, saying he conceded to the demands of the youth and condoled with the families of the about 23 people killed during the countrywide protests on June 25, 2024. Ruto has declined to sign finance bill to law. He is basically a condemned man in Kenya. Speaking from State House in Nairobi on June 26, the president said that the operation budget of the presidency and entire executive to be reduced. In the meantime, the deputy president, Mr. Gachagua, is already calling for someone to blame. The person being blamed is Mr. Nordin Haji to resign. He is demanding for Mr. Nordin Haji's resignation. Apparently, he has to resign because he failed to advise the president. The finance bill was being floated for approximately 2 months. However, what Mr. Gachagua is failing to realize is that people did not vote for NIS or Nordin Haji. Kenyans voted for members of parliament. NIS and Nordin Haji do not represent Kenyans in parliament. Maybe Mr. Gachagua and the rest of the members of parliament should consider resigning, along with their leader. President Ruto has a lot to apologize for. Remember, he was calling Gen Zs criminals. Also, the president needs to answer why the police was allowed to use live ammunition to shoot demonstrators. The world was watching in real time the pain that the police was subjecting to the demonstrators. Every member who voted yes to this draconian bill will be going home, come 2027, the election year. I congratulate Kenyan youths for the courage and determination to pull this through. You have for sure inspired other African countries. Remember, Africa is full of old bullies. Please take a listen at the video.
When I assumed office 20 months ago, our country was facing tremendous economic challenges. Escalating cost of essential household commodities, high fuel prices, rapid depreciation of the Kenya shilling, and spiraling public debt were threatening to ground our economy. My administration has worked hard and consistently so that today, the prices of essential commodities like unga have dropped from 240 shillings for a 2-kilogram packet to Kenya shillings 100, majorly attributed to our fertilizer subsidy program, the resilience of our farmers, and good rains that were given to us by God. During the period, we reduced the price of fertilizer also from 7,500 to 2,500. Petrol prices have come down from a high of 217 to now 187 a liter. The shilling has strengthened against the dollar from a high of 165 to now 127, 128. We have made significant progress in pulling the nation back from the brink of debt distress. Our debt situation is better managed, and our budget now has space for investment and in programs aimed at easing the hardship on vulnerable people and creating opportunities for our young people. Our GDP grew by 5.6% last year, ranking Kenya among the 27 fastest growing economies in the world. Our inflation figures have fallen from a high of 9 and 8 in May last year to 5% in April this year. It is instructive for the nation to know that for every 100 shillings we collect as taxes, we spend 61 shillings in debt service. We have paid Kenya's Eurobond debt that was borrowed in 2014 of $2 billion that has been hanging around our neck. We paid the last installment of $500 million last week. Today, Kenya's debt burden is much less, more sustainable, and we are on course to redeem our country from the discomfort of debt and assert our sovereignty. Early this year, Treasury had proposed a budget of 4.18 trillion. I did direct that it be reduced by 200 billion to come down to 3.99 trillion. The Finance Bill 2024, generated to actualize this budget, underwent public participation, which resulted to concessions by which we agreed to drop proposals on VAT on bread, motor vehicle circulation tax, VAT on locally manufactured diapers and sanitary pads, as well as excise duty on money transfer services, among others. The additional tax measures we had proposed in this year's finance bill were to raise money in the tune of 346 billion. When the concessions were made, subsequent to public participation that was undertaken by Parliament, that came down to 200 billion. I had made this proposal taking into account our situation and the priorities that are there. I want to thank the members of Parliament seated behind me and those who voted yes for identifying the priority areas of our nation. Because when I made the proposals to Parliament with my cabinet, we had certain critical priorities for the nation. Number one is our agriculture. We did make recommendation, and part of the money we were going to raise from the finance bill was 10 billion shillings that will go to fertilizer subsidy, 18 billion shillings that would go to making sure that junior secondary school teachers, 46,000 of them would be confirmed on permanent and pensionable basis. We are very clear in our minds that education being the greatest equalizer, no child in Kenya should go to a school where there is no teacher or where there are no adequate teachers. It is because of that reason that in this finance bill also, we had committed to hire an extra 20,000 teachers. We also had envisioned, because of the program of last mile connectivity to homes, especially in rural areas, we had committed 14.5 billion shillings, 50 million for every constituency for the last mile connectivity. Because we realize that there are many people who today cannot go to hospital because they cannot